Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Mataji, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, fine. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Just a volume here. Okay. Come on, Vaishnavi, you can start with a pranam mantra.
Yes, Mataji, one second. Mataji, do not make me co-host.
Okay, I forgot.
Mataji, can I say the pranam mantras?
Yes, why not?
Okay. Shall I start?
Just a minute, she'll start sharing the screen.
Mataji, do not make me co-host.
I made you co-host, no?
One second, Mataji, one second. Yeah, Mataji, yes. Yeah, now only a call.
Mataji, actually, you made me co-host.
It's okay, let it be.
Okay, Mataji. Okay, I'll start. Om Ajnanatimirandasya. What?
Slowly.
Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaya Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisheshya Shunyavadi Pashyatadishatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Somebody wanted to sing Vaishnav Bhajan? No? Okay. There are 20 slokas in chapter number 15. So we'll do 7 slokas for today. Okay. 3 days. Fine.
Okay, Mataji.
Okay.
Okay, Mataji.
We'll start with the text one. Yeah. Please, somebody start.
Mataji, can you increase the font a little bit?
Oh, I need to. Oh, yeah. Are you?
Mataji, press Control Shift Plus, Mataji.
What I have to do it? This is a desktop. It's a new device. I'm using it. Like it's okay for me. But why it's?
Mataji, it's actually kind of okay. Vaishnavi, Mataji, if you need zoom, then you can
I'll
just
do it,
zoom
yeah.
it from your side. Yeah.
I have done it. Okay. Shall I start, Mataji?
Yes.
Shri Bhagavan ऊर्ध्वमूलमधशाखम् अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित्. Translation. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows the tree is the knower of the Vedas. Just a minute, Mataji. Okay, a purport. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. This process of extrication should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of this material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the. Just a minute. I don't know why I'm not able to. Okay. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from the material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grow upwards. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the results of the living entities' activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Now, there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upwards, but there is such a thing. That tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the tree on the bank reflects upon the water with their branches downwards and root upwards. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as the tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationships with it. This tree, being the reflection of the real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. There is the impersonalist take Brahman to be the root of this material tree, and from root, according to Sankhya philosophy, comes Prakriti Purusha, then the three gunas, then five gross elements, Pancha Mahabhuta, then 10 senses, Dashendriya, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world into 24 elements. If Brahman is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is the manifestation of the center by 180 degrees, and the other 180 degrees constitute of spiritual world. The material world is perverted reflection, so the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness. But in reality, the Prakriti is the external energy of Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself, and that is explained in Bhagwat Gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachments to this material world. If one knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the personality of Godhead himself, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of spiritual world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Here, Akshata Vriksha, this is called the Banyan Tree, also called as Akshata Vriksha, which looks similar, you know. I think, students, higher class students, they can say 360 degrees angle, 180 degrees, I think, what is that, obtuse angle? I don't know.
Obtuse acute, Mataji.
Obtuse angle, what is 180 degrees angle called?
Mataji,
Mataji.
180 degrees is the straight angle.
Yeah, Mataji.
Yeah, 360 degrees is a circle, no? So
Obtuse, yeah, it's a 360.
obtuse is 120, I think.
No, Mataji.
Obtuse is between 90 degrees and 180 degrees, whereas the 180 degree is called straight angle and 360 is a complete circle.
Yeah. So if you take the straight angle, the other side is the spiritual world, and the other other side is the material world, you know. Unless you are well versed in the Vedas and Upanishads, and at least you are in a Krishna consciousness, because everything looks alike, though they are totally different in gunas, you know. The material world, which consists of all these 24 elements, and where you get entangled with by three modes of material nature, whereas the spiritual world, you grow above the Brahman. Okay, So unless one is very learned in his subject, or subject in the sense about the Vedas and all, it becomes very difficult to overcome this entanglements what we see in the material world. So that's what is a sense that goes in detail. And the purpose of Vedas, as disclosed with the personality of the Godhead himself, is to cut down the reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual. If you remember, in our 18 days Bhagavad Gita course, one picture we have shown where one haphazardly interlocked twigs of a branch of a banyan tree, and above that you will have a water, which is your overcome. If you are a learned person, then you can see the clear reflection of what exactly the world is. Okay, that's what is been told here. Hare Krishna. We'll move on to the next.
Mataji, may I read this?
Yes,
Mataji,
I
I
think
need the
11
help of
sloka.
Mataji. I need the help of Vaishnavi Mataji.
Yeah.
Yes, Mataji. Adhaschordvam
Adashchodvam
prastastasya saka
prastastasya chaka
guna pravriddha
guna pravritta
vishaya pravala
vishaya pravala
adhascha mulani
adashcha mulani
anusantatani
anusantatani
karmanubandhini
karma anubandhini
manushya
manushaloke. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Translation. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of the human society. Puppet. The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches spread in all directions. In the lower parts, there are variegated manifestations of the living entities, human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. These are situated on the lower parts of the branches, whereas on upper parts are higher forms of living entities, the demigods, Gandharvas, and many other species of life. As a tree, it is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that a tract of a land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes a tract is very green. Similarly, when particular modes of material nature are proportionately greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested accordingly. Mataji, 1 second.
Yes,
Yes,
can
Mataji.
go next.
Yes, Mataji. The twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By the development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses. And by the senses, we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. The tips of the branches are the senses, the ear, nose, eyes, etc., which are attached to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The twigs are sound, form, touch, and so on. The sense objects, the subsidiary roots, are attachments and aversions, which are byproducts of different varieties of suffering and sense enjoyment. The tendencies towards piety and impiety are considered to develop from these secondary roots, which spread in all directions. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in human planetary systems. After one enjoys the results of virtuous activities in the upper planetary system, he comes down to this earth and renew his karma of fruitive activities for promotion. This planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So here the description of the tree. As you all know, banyan tree grows upside down. Okay, the lower ones, the lower branches have been compared to all the animal kingdom and the human kingdom, and the upper planet is been the upper branches have been compared to the demigods, Gandharva, and other higher species of life. As the tree is nourished by water, this tree is nourished by three modes of material nature. Okay, and if a tract of land is barren for the want of sufficient water, sometimes the tract is very green. Similarly, as this tree is particularly the spiritual world is particularly feeding on the material mode. So, so which mode we are there, that is directly proportional. The mode which is more, say suppose sattva guna, rajaguna, tamoguna, that definitely have a greater in quantity. So the different species of life are manifested accordingly. Hope you got it. So the twigs of the trees, the small twigs of the trees are considered by the sense object, and by which we are attached to the material world. So, and the real root is from the Brahmaloka and the other roots in the human planetary system. So everything, the only thing is that by three modes of material nature, say suppose if you are there in the mode of a Sattva Guna, always thinking about the Lord and practicing everything, it becomes easier to come out of that illusion and know about the Lord. Say suppose if you are there in the mode of a Rajoguna and Tamoguna, as we have discussed in the previous chapters, if we are there in the mode of Rajoguna, we have to stay back here, examples, kings and all. And if you are there in the mode of Tamoguna, maybe we have to go down to the lower planets. Next, two people volunteer to read this.
Hare Krishna Mataji, may I read this?
This is the 11-meter sloka.
Mataji, can I try, please?
Pardon?
Can I try?
Yes, you can try. Otherwise, Vaishnav is there to help you out.
न रूपमस्येह तथोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चादिर्न न च सम्प्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरूढमूलं न सङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन चित्वा. Mataji, was it correct?
Yes, very nicely recited. Yeah, somebody else please recite the another sloka.
Mataji, can I?
Okay.
Yeah, Mataji. Tatapat tat. Mataji, I need help of Vaishnavi Mataji.
Yeah.
तथापदं तत्
Tatapadam tat.
परिमार्गितव्यं
Parimarkitavyam.
यस्मिन् गताना
Tata gatana.
निवर्तन्ति भूया
Nivarthanti bhuya.
तं एव चाद्यं
Tam eva chadyam.
पुरुषं प्रपद्ये
Purusham prapadye.
यथा प्रवृत्ति
Yata pravritti.
प्रासृतपुराणी
Prasrita Purani. Hare Krishna. Mataji, should I read the translation?
I think the other Mataji, she will read. You already read, no ma?
Yeah, Mataji.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji, I will read it.
Okay.
The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrenders to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything begins and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. Purport: it is now clearly stated that the real form of this banyan tree cannot be understood in this material world. Since the root is upward, the extension of this real tree is at the other end. When entangled with material expansions of the tree, one cannot see how far the tree extends nor can one see the beginning of the tree. Yet one has to find out the cause. I am the son of my father. My father is the son of such and such a person, etc. By searching in this way, one comes to Brahma, who is generated by Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Finally, in this way, when one reaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the end of research work. One has to search out that origin of this tree, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through the association of persons who are in knowledge of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, by understanding, one becomes gradually detached from this false reflection of reality. And by knowledge, one can cut off the connection and actually become situated in the real tree. The word asanga is very important in this connection because the attachment for sense enjoyment and loading it over the material nature is very strong. Therefore, one must learn detachment by discussion of spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. As a result of such discussions in the association of devotees, one comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the first thing one must do is surrender to Him. The description of that place, whence, having gone, one never returns to this false reflected tree, is given here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is original root from whom everything has emanated. To gain the favor of that personality of Godhead, one has only to surrender, and this is a result of performing devotional service by hearing, chanting, etc. He is the cause of the extension of material world. This has already been explained by the Lord himself. Aham sarvasya prabhavah. I am the origin of everything. Therefore, to get out of this entanglement of the strong banyan tree of material life, one must surrender to Krishna. As soon as one surrenders unto Krishna, one becomes detached automatically from this material extension. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So this verse explained like the only medicine by which you can come out of this material world is surrendering onto the Krishna and having a devotee association and reading and listening to the scriptures of the Lord. So by being in a devotee association and practicing the Krishna consciousness, it's easy for you to get out of this entanglement. So as soon as one surrender onto Krishna, he automatically becomes detached from this material extension. Okay. Yes, Hare Krishna. Next, who wanted to read?
Hare Krishna Mataji, may I read this?
I think you people already read, no?
No, Mataji, I asked, but I did not read now.
Okay, yes.
Nirmana moha jitasanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinavrutta kamaha dvandvairvimuktaha sukadukka sanyaihi gacchantya moodaha padamavyayam tat.
Very good
Translation.
but you can sing it like a song.
Okay, Mataji.
Namoha Gita Sangha Dosha
Adhyatma nitya vinavritta kamaha dvandvairvimuktaha sukadukka samdhai gachantyai amudah padam avyayatam tat. Translation.
Mataji, today you are in some different room.
I'm in my kids' room actually. My laptop is getting rebooted.
Okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Come on, continue.
Okay, Mataji. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with the material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who unbewildered know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to the eternal kingdom. But the surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by the pride. Because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the lord of the material nature is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion, for although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all the things complicated and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, and to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of which is actually his own and which is not actually his own. And when one has an understanding of this things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, so a person who is not in duality and who is he's free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, and he remains stands in both happiness and distressful situation, and a person who don't expect any appraisal or appraise from the other person, so he's not attached and all those things. He is very balanced, calm, trance, and surrender on to Krishna. So such a person can attain the eternal kingdom. If you are attached to any of these things which you've been explained in this purport, then it becomes difficult. So how you can cultivate the habit of getting out of all this illusion is by just surrendering onto the lotus feet of the Lord, and you and a process what do you say follow the four regulatory principles, do the regular chanting, and do the service to Krishna. Automatically he will take care of everything. Next.
Mataji, I have a doubt.
Yes.
Mataji, so if like in 15.4, like there, they have mentioned that if we create a chart like our father's father, like that, Mataji, once it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it's the research ends, you said, right, Mataji?
I didn't get you.
Mataji, in one sloka, at the purport, they mentioned that, like after our father, then at last it comes to Brahma, and Mahavishnu created Brahma, and then it ends as Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the research ends there, right, Mataji? You said like that.
Yes.
Mataji, like why is that so, Mataji?
He is the seed-giving father, no? As per the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, no, whether it's a Brahma, Vishnu, Lord Shiva, or any other demigods, I am the seed-giving father for all these things. So once you are there in Krishna consciousness, there your search ends, because you already know that all the Brahma Loka, Shiva Loka, and all these things is above this is the Goloka. So once you have chosen your path, then you're automatically out of illusion.
No, Mataji, like I heard somewhere that like there are millions of universes and each universe has a Krishna, and I heard somewhere.
No. For millions of universe, you will have only one Krishna, you know. Ananta Koti Brahmana, only one Krishna. For each universe, you'll have 3 Vishnus, as we have discussed in our Goloka chart.
Okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. You wanted to read this?
Yes, Mataji.
Please.
न तद्भाषयते सूर्यो न शशांको न पावका यत् गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम paramam mama. Translation: that supreme abode of mine is not by the sun or moon, nor by the fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Purport: the spiritual world, the abode of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, which is known as Krishna Loka, Goloka, Vrindavana, is described here. Oh, Mataji. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. It's described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity because all planets are self luminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self luminous. But all the planets in the spiritual sky are self luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets called Vaikunthas constitutes the shining sky known as Brahma Jyotir. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna Goloka Vrindavana. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahat Tattva, the material world. Other than this, the major portion of the shining sky is full of spiritual planets which are called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Goloka Vrindavana. As long as living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditioned life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky by cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In this conditional life, the living entity considers himself to be the lord of this material world. But in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to the eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. One cannot become detached from the attraction of the material world simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that uh, devotional service as described in the 12th chapter is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. In chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of process by material nature is described. Only devotional service is prescribed as purely transcendental. The words Paramam Mama are very important here. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the spiritual world is Paramam, full of six opulences. The Katha Upanishad 2.2.15 also confirms that in the spiritual world, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, or stars. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam. For the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this, I think it is self-explanatory. First paragraph is describing about the Krishna Loka and Goloka. Just now you people asked a question. So I think this is an answer for that. A devotee who is intended to go to Goloka or Krishna Loka, which is self-illuminating. It is not like a material world where you have a sun, moon, stars, and all those things. Okay, all those things are not required here. And effulgence of all those planets called Vaikunthas constitute this shining sky known as the Brahma Jyotir. Okay, they are all self-luminous. Okay, and actually the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna Goloka Vrindavana. Part of this is covered, the shining effulgence is covered by Mahatattva, okay, which is covered from the material world. So then when come to material world, as you all know, it is you require all the sun, moon, and other illuminating body to what do you say, throw a light on that. So here we are talking about all these things with reference to the material world, which has been compared to the Akshatva Vriksha, which is nothing but a perverted reflection of the spiritual knowledge. Unless one is above this material world, and unless one surrender unto the Lord and cultivate the habit of engaging in Krishna consciousness, it becomes oneself to get free from that. So, and so therefore one has to take it very seriously, the devotion service as described in 12th chapter. That is a personal form of bhakti, and like that only he can come out of this. At the same time, he should be free from all the type of contamination which we have discussed in a previous chapter, that is the 14th chapter. Okay, and the word paramam mama is very important here. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of Supreme Personality of the Godhead. That is true, no? He is the seed-giving father for everyone. And Katha Upanishads also confirm this. And the Supreme, how we can go to the Supreme abode, that is the Krishna Loka, it is only by surrendering on to the Lord. So we should never ever try to take a proprietorship over anything which is material in nature. If we are taking this is mine, this belongs to me, I am the proprietor and all this, and that means we still haven't surrender onto the lotus feet of the Lord. Okay.
Mataji,
Mataji, can I recite? Can I recite?
Yes.
Mataji, can you check your chat?
I didn't check my chat. Nothing is there in my chat.
Oh, okay, Mataji. Let me try resending it.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, this is the last sloka for today.
Okay, Mataji. Mama Vamtu Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Santana Mana Tandriyani Prakriti Thanikasati. Translation: the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental part. Due to conditions like they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Purport: in this verse, the, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord eternally. It is not that he assumed individuality in his conditional life and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is clearly said Sanatana. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansion, called Vishnu Tattva, and the secondary expansions are called the living entities. In other words, the Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion, and the living entities are the separated expansion. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms like Lord Rama, Nishamadeva, Vishnu Murti, and all the predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planet. The separated expansion, the living entities, are eternally servitors. The personal expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual identities of the Godhead are always present. Similarly, the separated expansions of the living entities have their identity. As fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, the living entities also have fragmental portions of its quality, of which independence is one. Every living entity, as an individual soul, has its personal individuality and a minute form of independence. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul, and by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal as the Supreme Lord. He, in his liberated state, he is freed from this material condition, and he is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature and forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain to maintain its existence in the material world.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Somebody else can read the next paragraph.
Mataji, may I?
Yes.
Where did Mataji stop?
The living entities you have to, this
Hare
paragraph you can
Krishna.
read.
Hare Krishna. So one and all present here. So the living entities are not only human beings and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They are all eternal, not temporary manifestations. The word karshati means struggling or grappling hard. Is very significant. The conditioned soul is bound up as though shackled by iron chains, is bound up by the false ego, and the mind is the chief agent which is driving him into this material existence. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, his activities are good. When the mind is in the mode of passion, his activities are troublesome. And when the mind is in the mode of ignorance, it travels in the lower species of life. It is clear, however, in this verse that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and the senses, and when he is liberated, this material covering perishes, but his spiritual body manifests itself in its individual capacity. The following information is there in the Madhya Madhyadhinayana Suti Tava Esha Brahma Nishtha Idam Satam Matam Atishajya Brahmana Bhi Sampadya Brahmana Pasyati Brahmana Snoti Brahmanai Vedam Sarvam Anubhavati. It is stated here that when a living entity gives up the material embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he revives his spiritual body, and in this spiritual body he can see the supreme personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face, and he can understand the supreme personality as he is. From Smriti also it is understood Vasanti Yatya Purusha Sarve Vaikunta Muttaya. In the spiritual planets, everyone lives in bodies featured like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entities and the expansion of Vishnu Murti. In other words, at liberation, the living entity gets a spiritual body by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The
Hare
word
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Somebody else will complete this paragraph.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Deepak.
The words Mamaiv Masha
Vani
fragment
Vamsha.
Mavai Mansha fragmental parts of the fragment fragmental parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord are also very significant. The fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. We have already understood in the second chapter that the script cannot be cut into pieces. This fragment is not materially conceived. It is not like matter, which can be cut into pieces and joined together again. The conception is not applicable here because the Sanskrit word Sanatana, eternal, is used. The fragmental portion is eternal. It is also stated in the beginning of the second chapter that in each and every individual body, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is present. Dehino Smi Yatha Dehe. The fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in a spiritual planet, and enjoy association with the Supreme Lord. It is, however, understood here that the living entity, being the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is qualitatively one with the Lord, just as the parts and parcel of gold are also gold. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So this was as the translations say, My living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. He says the super soul and the individual souls. But due to the conditioned life of material world, these people are struggling very hard with the six senses, that is five senses and one mind. Unless one overcome that and one surrender onto the Lord, and once the process of Krishna consciousness begins, and one is free from the material world, he cannot become spiritual. See, we have got a gross body, subtle body, and a soul. Soul is the Ansh of Paramatma. So we should grow beyond the body. That is, we should overcome the modes of material nature. The gross body acts as per the modes of material nature. We should grow beyond that. So when we grow beyond that, then we try to what do you say, overcome the material world. Then that's what is been told in the first paragraph. Second one, once we overcome that, and this spiritual body manifests itself in its individual capacity, then you can make a communication with the Lord, like you can see the Supreme Personality of the Godhead face to face. You can hear and speak to him face to face, and he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. So this is the required qualification of a devotee, which we have been discussing in a previous thing. So he should be out of this material world. So how? By surrendering onto the lotus feet, following our four regulative principles, and doing the practice in Krishna consciousness. So by doing so, he'll be out of that. Then again, he'll attain the spiritual body. That is, the spiritual body inside him will get invoked. Then he can establish that connection with the Lord. Then he can discuss everything, what exactly he wanted to progress further. So as this goes on, then there is no difference between the part and parcel of living entities and expansion of the plenary energies, that is the Vishnumurti and all. So then he will automatically guide you. So the word Mame Vamsha, that is fragmental part and parcel of Supreme Lord, are also very significant, because it's not like something a broken part, material thing and all. So everything is Lord, even the material thing is also Lord, is it or not? But when we grow beyond this body, and we identify ourselves with that soul, as discussed in the second chapter, then it is easy to practice Krishna consciousness, and it's easy for us to go to the Goloka Vrindavana, and we can establish that relationship with the Lord. Then at the end, he concludes by saying, just as the part and parcel of gold are also gold, then we can, they say, no, in Hindi they say, mukabla hamesha barabari ka hona chahiye. So likewise, we are very fallen souls. We don't even come to anywhere near even the entry level devotees. So we have to keep a sadhana in such a way that at least we should be eligible. Say, suppose if you wanted to become an engineer or a doctor or some higher professional, you need to pass on an entrance examination, is it or not? So similarly for Krishna consciousness also, you need a certain prerequisites. Unless you cross on that, you cannot surrender onto the Krishna consciousness and practice the Krishna consciousness. That's what is being told. So ultimately, we have to go back to our home, that is the Goloka Vrindavana, and these are all the process by which we can reach that. Okay, this is all for today.
Mataji, like I sent you in the chat. Did you see?
Those are the reference books, ma.
No, Mataji, like that's not my doubt. Like, see, like for example, if we
So those are the references books. Whatever we are discussing, you are muted. You're not audible. Yeah, somebody please.
Can I, Mataji?
Yes.
The Gopis glorify the song of Krishna's flute. This chapter describes how Lord Sri Krishna entered the enchanting forest of Vrindavan upon the arrival of autumn, and the praises the young cowherd girls sang when they heard the vibration of his flute. As Lord Krishna, Lord Balarama, and their cowherd friends entered the forest to graze the cows, Krishna began playing his flute. The gopis heard the enchanting flute song and understood that Krishna was entering the forest. Then they narrated to each other the Lord's various activities. The Gopis declared, to see Lord Krishna playing his flute while taking the cows to pasture in this highest perfection for the eyes. What pious activities has this flute performed that enables him to freely drink the nectar of Sri Krishna's lips? A blessing we cowherd girls find difficult to achieve. Hearing the song of Krishna's flute, the peacock dances, and all the other creatures become stunned when they see them.
Hey, Krishna
Demigoddesses.
Mataji, can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
okay.
You can please stay muted.
Yeah, Mataji.
Okay. Demigoddesses traveling through the sky in their airplanes are vexed by Cupid, and their garments become loose. The ears of the cows stand on end as they drink the nectar of this flute song, and their calves simply stand stunned. The milk they have been drinking from their mother's udder still in their mouths. The birds take shelter of the branches of the trees and close their eyes, listening to the song of Krishna's flute with rapt attention. The flowing rivers become perturbated by conjugal attraction for Krishna and stopping their flow, embrace Krishna's lotus feet with their arms of their waves, while the clouds serve as parasols to shade Krishna's head from the hot sun. The Aborigine women of the Sha- Sharab- Shabara race, seeing the grass stained by the red kumkuma adorning adorning the Lord's lotus feet, smear this vermilion powder upon their breast and face to alleviate the distress created by Cupid. Govardhana Hill offers grass and various kinds of fruit and bulbous roots in worship of Lord Sri Krishna. All the non-moving living beings take on the characteristic of moving creatures, and the moving living beings become stationary. These things are all very wonderful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I just went into a trance, I was enjoying each and every moment because we have read about the pastimes of Krishna when he was a child. This is when he has grown up, is it or not? Yeah. Upon arrival
Mataji,
of autumn, the praises, just a minute, ma, please. Praises the young cowherd girls sang when they heard the vibration of this flute, and that these gopis were declaring how, what do you say, the flute is so fortunate enough that it is able to drink the nectar of Sri Krishna's lip, and everything which is there in and around, even the cows, the demigods who are going up, and the river flow and whatnot, everything which is there surrounding Krishna is coming to a standstill when he's playing the flute, and they were listening to the Krishna's music, So yeah, everybody is in a trance. Yes, ma?
I'll just say yes, Mataji.
Yes,
Mataji,
I
can I
Geetika?
yeah, Mataji. Mataji, I didn't see that like my mic suddenly went off, Mataji.
No problem, no
Why?
problem. See, that is a reference book, ma. Whenever they say something, if you go about that particular verse, the detail is been given in that book. Okay? Because Bhagavad Gita is a compilation of different Vedas. So from which Veda it has been given, it has been mentioned here. Okay?
Okay. Mataji, may I read the next one?
Just a minute.
Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, can I?
Yeah.
Mataji, can I read?
I think each one of you read one paragraph.
Okay. Mother, can I start?
Yes.
Okay. This chapter describes how the marriageable daughters of the cowherd men worshipped Katyayani to get Lord Sri Krishna as their husband, and how Krishna stole the garments of the young girls and gave the girls benediction. Should I continue or wait?
Yes, next one.
During the month of Margashirsha, Every day, early in the morning, the young daughters of the cowherds would take one another's hand and, singing of Krishna's transcendental qualities, go to the Yamuna to bathe, desiring to obtain Krishna as their husband. They would then worship the goddess Katyayani with incense, flowers, and other items. Should I stop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody please continue.
Mataji, may I read?
Yes.
Shall I start from one day?
Yes.
One day the young gopis left their garments on the shore as usual and began playing in the water while chanting of Lord Krishna's activity. Suddenly Krishna himself came there and took away all the garments and climbed a nearby Kadamba tree, wanting to tease the gopis. Krishna said, I understand how fatigued you gopis are from your austerity. So please come onto the shore and take back your clothes.
Yeah, you can continue next one also.
The gopis, the gopis then pretended to become angry and said that the cold water of Yamuna was giving them great pain. If Krishna did not give them back their garments, they said they would inform King Kamsa of all that had happened, but if he did give the clothes back, they would willingly carry out his orders in the mood of humble servants.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I think Basanti, you can read next two paragraphs.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Sri Krishna replied that he had no fear of King Kamsa and that if the girls really intended to follow his command and be his maidservants, they should each immediately come onto the shore and take their respective garments. The girls, trembling from the cold, climbed out of the water with their two hands covering with their private parts. Krishna, who felt great affection for them, again spoke, because while executing a vow, you bathed in the water naked. You have committed an offense against the demigods, and to counteract it, you should offer obeisances with joint palms. Then your vow of austerity will achieve its full result. The gopis followed this instruction and, folding their hands in respect, offered obeisances to Sri Krishna. Satisfied, he gave them back their clothing. But the young girls had become so attracted to him that they could not leave. Understanding their minds, Krishna said that he knew that they had worshipped Katyayani to get him as their husband, because they had offered their hearts to him. Their desires would never again become tainted by the mood of materialistic enjoyment, just as fried barley corns can no longer grow into shoots. Next autumn, he told them their most cherished desire would be fulfilled.
Yeah,
Can I
Hare
continue?
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Next, somebody please read it. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, can
Mudita?
I?
Yes, anybody.
Then the gopis, fully satisfied, returned to Vraja, and Sri Krishna and his cowherd friends went off to a distant place to graze the cows. Some time later, when the boys felt disturbed by the great heat of summer, they took shelter at the base of a tree that stood just like an umbrella. The Lord then said that the life of a tree is most excellent, for even while feeling pain, a tree continues to protect others from heat, rain, snow, and so on. With its leaves, flowers, fruits, shade, roots, bark, wood, fragrance, sap, ashes, pulp, and sprouts, a tree fulfills the desire of everyone. This kind of life is ideal indeed, said Krishna. The perfection of life is to act with one's vital energy, wealth, intelligence, and words for the benefit of all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. After the Lord has glorified the trees and uses, the entire company went to Yamuna. Where cowherd boys let the cows drink the sweet water and also drank some themselves. Okay. So this is all about the young girls who were taking bath and who were observing the Katyayani Vrata in the month of Margashisha. So how Lord Krishna has taken away their clothes and how he has blessed them that they will be blessed with a husband as that of a Krishna, and there is a huge meaning behind that. What exactly it is, we will come to know in the next.
Mataji, may I recite the next one?
Just a minute. Yes, you can read.
Mataji, can I?
Yeah, you can read next. After Sai Gitika, you can read.
Okay, Mataji.
Sai Gitika, you can read first two paragraphs.
Okay, Mataji. This chapter describes how Lord Sri Krishna, after including the cowherd boys to beg for food, showed mercy to the wives of some brahmanas performing a sacrifice and made the brahmanas themselves feel remorse. Mataji, what do you mean by remorse?
Feel sorry.
Okay, Mataji. When the cowherd boys became very hungry, they asked Sri Krishna about obtaining food, and he sent them to beg some from a group of Brahmanas who were performing a sacrifice nearby. But these Brahmanas ignored the boys, thinking Sri Krishna an ordinary human being. The boys returned disappointed, but the Lord sent them off again, advising them to ask Brahmanas' wives for the food. These ladies had heard about Krishna's transcendental qualities and were very much attached to him. Thus, as soon as they learned he was nearby, they went to him in a great haste, bringing all four varieties of food. In this way, they offered themselves to Krishna. Krishna told the women
No,
that.
Mudita will read next. I told you only two
Okay,
paragraphs.
Mataji. Okay, Mataji.
Krishna, yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Krishna told the woman that while one can develop transcendental love for him by seeing her deity perform in the temple, meditating upon him and chanting his glory, one cannot achieve this result simply by being in his physical presence. He advised them thus in civil health, while their particular duty was to help their husband perform sacrifices. He therefore instructed them to return to their home. When the ladies went back home, their Brahmana husbands at once felt removed and they lamented. For anyone inimical to Krishna, his three births, seminal, Brahminical, and sacrificial, are all condemned. On the other hand, these women folk who have not undergone the purificatory processes of the Brahmanical class or performed any austerity or year rituals have gone through devotion for Krishna, usually cut off the bondage of death. Mataji, should I continue?
Yes. I think, Deepak, you can finish the rest of the two paragraphs, small ones.
Since Lord Krishna's every desire is completely fulfilled, his begging for food was simply an act of mercy towards us, Brahmins. All the fruits of Vedic sacrifice, and indeed all things on earth, are his opulences, yet out of ignorance we could not appreciate this fact. Having spoken thus, all the Brahmins offered their obeisances to Lord Sri Krishna, hoping to contract their offense. Nonetheless, out of fear King Kamsha, they did not go to see the Lord in person. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, actually, so Krishna, when he goes around along with other cowherd boys and all, he'll ask the cowherd boys to get some food for him, because he will ask them to go to the nearby Brahmana's wife and ask them to give the food and all. But first, he was hungry, and like this, he will ask him. There is a hidden meaning behind that. But they say we have prepared this for the food, and we have to give it to the Lord, and without offering we cannot offer this food to you, and all those things they say. Sometimes Krishna says that people may worship him in a deity form, but when they are in his physical form, sometimes it is very they may not recognize him, or one cannot achieve that result simply by in his physical appearance. So, but later when they come to know that Lord Krishna has asked them, then they offer the food and all. So when the ladies went back home, the Brahmana's husband, they felt bad and lamented. What did you do all these things? They and how come you have given the food to a person without offering to the Lord and all, something like that they sing. So uh, whatever the husbands are yelling or whatever it is, but the Brahmana's wife are being blessed, because that is again Leelas of Krishna, the blessing towards the Brahmanical ladies. By asking the food prepared with their hands, and he himself, Lord himself, is taking that prasadam. So whatever said and done, their past activities, all is washed off, and he will bless them. I think this is all for today. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Na Mataji, Tantat Pranam, beautiful class.
Yeah, I think Govardhana Hill and all. Tomorrow we'll continue. Okay.
Mataji, I just
Yes,
wanted to ask
Mataji.
you one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the last class for the level 2?
No, not last class. We are only in 15th chapter right now. No, how it is last class?
No, I was just asking because I was just asking, nothing much.
No.
Mataji, like, can I just say you something?
Yes.
Mataji, I like the wardrobe behind you.
Huh?
Wardrobe. It's filled with Mickey Mouse stickers.
It is at what is it? The cupboard. What is it? I don't know that. We got it done 10 years
It
back.
actually looks colorful behind you, Mataji.
Colorful means because it's my kid's bedroom. My son is a great
Yes,
artist.
Mataji, it is really beautiful.
Yeah, he paint all the wall and all, some texture painting, artistic painting, what else, there is one peacock there. And this theme, but you people are liking it. My kids are bored of seeing this for the past 10 years. Now they are in a teens. They want something like not like a kiddish type. Okay.
Mataji, so they can redecorate their rooms with something, right?
They will not do it. Simply they will say some words. Okay. Krishna will take care of them. Okay. That's all for today. I think we can end by saying Narsimharti, Hare Krishna, who is going to sing.
Now, Mataji, may I try?
Yes.
Namaste Narasimhaya Praladladayayini Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha Shilatankadayayini Tava Kamalam Tava Kamalam Pare Adbhuta Shringar Dalitam Hiranyakashipu Tanuvringa Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Nrsimhadev Jaya Nrsimhadev Jaya Nrsimhadev Jaya Nrsimhadev Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Narasingha Jaya Prahlad Narasingha Jaya Prahlad Narasingha Jaya Prahlad Narasingha. I tried at least.
Yeah, I think you need to practice little bit more. But
Mataji, like, can I also try?
well
Mataji.
attempted. Next tomorrow we have not every day. So this is one book actually I got. One of my known Prabhuji who is also a preacher, who has released that Gita in a nutshell. This book is available in Amazon. All his classes, which is in summarized like this in a tabular form, and a small explanations, which is easy for you to remember also. If anybody can go through the Amazon and see, and
Mataji, what's the book name?
Gita in a nutshell.
Nutshell.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Mataji, it's in a top search, Mataji. When I just searched Gita, it came in a nutshell.
Yeah, okay. So, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you, co-host and participant, for your active participation. See you all tomorrow at 8 p.m. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mata.
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna.
one
Mataji.
small
Krishna,
doubt.
Mataji.
Mataji, like when I went to Amazon and searched Gita in a nutshell, I found one thing. It's like by J.P. Vaswan. Is it that book only?
No, no.
Then what will be the author's name, Mataji?
It is Kolimarla Madhava Sharma.
What? Can you repeat it again?
Madhava Sharma.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Hare Krishna.